My name's Claire. I'm 34, and I think I just pushed the man I loved out the door for good. I've played this moment back so many times, me holding the little velvet box in my hand, the soft click of it opening, the glint of the ring under our apartment lights, and the words I said before I could stop myself. It looks cheap. Is this what you really picked out? I saw his face. I felt the crack in the room. And still, I kept going. I told him it was embarrassing, that he should take it back. He did. God. I don't know why I said it like that. I don't know why I expected him to argue. Maybe I thought he'd laugh it off, hold me, tell me I was being dramatic, tell me he knew me. But he just nodded. Quiet. Turned around and left with the box. I haven't heard from him in 3 days. Before all this, before that damn ring, it used to be different. We met 3 years ago. I was running a freelance design studio out of my cramped Brooklyn apartment, and he was an accountant who wore ugly cardigans and knew more about tax loopholes than was healthy. He had this slow, boyish charm, the kind that crept up on you. He didn't try to be clever or cool. He just showed up. He cooked me garlic pasta on our 3rd date and kissed me on the forehead before the lips. I remember thinking, this one could ruin me. We used to lie in bed and make up stories about our future kids. I'd put my cold feet on his legs at night, and he'd pretend to grumble, but pull me closer anyway. But over time, things shifted. Not in some dramatic, betrayal-type way. Just slowly. He started coming home later. Stopped asking about my day. The forehead kisses turned into shoulder pats. The sex became mechanical. Then rare. I remember one night about 2 months ago, we were on the couch watching Stranger Things, and I leaned into him like I always did, resting my head on his chest. He let me. But he didn't wrap his arm around me like he used to. I waited. It never came. I told myself he was tired. Overworked. But that's when it started, this feeling like I was chasing something that had already run ahead without me. We still had our routines. Still shared a bed. But even his I love you felt rehearsed, like he was checking a box on a list. I didn't feel cherished. I didn't even feel seen. Then last week, he planned a weekend away. He told me to pack a nice dress. He made dinner reservations. I should have felt special. But instead, I felt numb. Like I was acting out a role I didn't quite remember how to play. And then came the ring. We were back in the apartment. He looked nervous. Sweaty palms. He dropped to one knee clumsily, awkwardly. The box clicked open and inside was a dainty gold ring with a small solitaire. Classic. Understated. Thoughtful. But I didn't see that. All I saw was small. And for some godforsaken reason, I said it out loud. Every judgmental, selfish thought I had, I threw it at him like a stone. I'll never forget the way he looked at me. Not angry. Not hurt. Just hollow. Like I'd confirmed something he'd already feared. That was the moment I realized. Something had changed. Not just in him. In me. And maybe, just maybe, it was already too late. Jake's a paramedic. Always has been. The kind of man who knows how to stitch wounds in the back of a moving ambulance, but still can't figure out how to talk about what's hurting inside. He's used to blood and chaos. Used to fixing things in the moment. But emotions? Conversations that require stillness, eye contact, patience? That's always been harder for him. For a long time, I told myself I admired that. His ability to compartmentalize. To carry the weight of other people's tragedies without bringing it home. But lately, it feels like he doesn't bring anything home. Not even himself. The day after he walked out with the ring, I kept expecting him to call. But he didn't. Instead, the silence stretched like a rubber band tight, threatening to snap. I spent that whole day pacing our apartment, trying to remember when we'd started missing each other even when we were in the same room. I thought of 2 weeks ago. A night that now feels sharper in hindsight. He had come home late again, smelling faintly of antiseptic and diesel. His eyes were tired, but he tried. He wrapped his arms around my waist in the kitchen and pressed his lips against my neck, murmuring, "Missed you." I froze. Not because I didn't want him, but because I wanted to talk first. I wanted him to ask me how I was doing. I had spent the entire day in a mental spiral after a client pulled out of a major design deal, and I needed to unload. But instead of seeing the heaviness in my eyes, he kept kissing, sliding his hands under my shirt. I whispered, "Jake, can we just talk for a second?" He pulled back, confused. "I thought you said you missed me too." "I do. I did. But I also had a really crappy day, and I kind of need you to just hear me out first." He stepped away then. His jaw tightened in that way it does when he feels rejected, but doesn't know how to say it. "I try to show you love, and you always push me away lately," he muttered, reaching for a bottle of water. "I'm not pushing you away. I'm asking you to connect with me." His laugh was short, bitter. "I guess I just don't do it the right way, huh?" That was the end of that night. He showered. I cried in the bedroom with the door closed. We didn't touch. That's the thing people don't talk about with love. It's not always some screaming match or dramatic betrayal. Sometimes it's just a million missed chances to see each other. I think Jake believes touching me is his way of saying, "I'm still here." But I've started feeling like a checkpoint on his route to sleep. A body to hold when the rest of the world gets too loud. I need more than his hands. I need his words. His thoughts. I need him to choose to know me again. The night before the proposal, he came home early. Made spaghetti, his mom's recipe. Lit a candle even though we were just eating on the couch. I saw the effort. I appreciated it. But we didn't talk about the last fight. About the silence. About what was slipping between us. He sat too close. Kissed me like everything was fine. And I kissed back, because I wanted it to be. But my heart? It was screaming. He couldn't hear it. And I didn't know how to make him. Jake came home last Tuesday humming. Actually humming. Like the kind of tuneless noise people make when they're proud of something or trying to lighten the mood. He walked through the door, kissed me quickly on the cheek, and dropped a paper bag on the counter. "Your favorite," he said, like that was supposed to fix whatever had been quietly unraveling between us. It was pad thai from that little corner place near my studio. The one I hadn't even mentioned in weeks. I looked at the bag and felt nothing. Not warmth. Not love. Just the pressure to smile like I appreciated it. And I did. I really did. I just didn't know how to show it anymore without feeling fake. I forced a smile. "Thanks." Jake moved in closer, wrapping his arms around my waist like it was the most natural thing. "You smell good," he murmured into my neck. I stiffened. It was automatic. My shoulders went tight, my stomach clenched. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did and didn't want to acknowledge it. His hands slid down to my hips and I knew where this was going. I could already feel that shift in his touch. "Jake," I said, too softly. He answered, already kissing along my jaw. I'm not really in the mood right now." He paused, but didn't move away. "You always say that lately." "I know. I'm sorry." "You don't have to be sorry. Just tell me what's going on, Claire. Am I doing something wrong?" His voice was still gentle, but I could hear the edge creeping in. That low-grade frustration that had been growing between us for weeks. I turned around to face him. "I don't know. I feel like we're not connecting anymore." "Not really." "I'm trying," he said, gesturing vaguely to the takeout and then to himself. "I brought your favorite food. I've been home early 3 nights in a row. What else do you want from me?" "That," I snapped. "That's the part. Like it's a checklist. Do this, do that, and I should just melt into your arms again." He blinked, stunned. "I didn't mean it like that." I sighed, rubbed my forehead. "I know. I don't feel like you see me anymore, Jake. You touch me, but you don't talk to me. Not the way you used to. You want me to stop touching you?" "No. I want it." That silenced him. He stepped back and sat on the edge of the couch, elbows on knees, staring down at his hands. "I don't know how to fix this," he said quietly. And neither did I. The next night, he tried again. We were in bed, backs turned. He reached across the sheets and traced a slow circle on my shoulder. That used to make me melt. Now it just made me overthink. Was this him trying to initiate something again? Was I supposed to roll over? Kiss him? Pretend everything was okay so we didn't have to talk about what wasn't? I held still. He leaned in, pressing a kiss to the back of my neck. "You're so quiet lately," he whispered. I said nothing, because anything I said would come out wrong. Later, as he drifted off to sleep, I stared at the ceiling, my body turned away from his. And in the quiet of our bedroom, I found myself asking the one question I never thought I'd ask. Not some dramatic, candlelit dinner at a fancy restaurant, just us at home, on a Tuesday night. Jake had made lemon chicken, like he used to when we first started dating. I think he was trying. I know he was trying. We sat at opposite ends of the table, eating quietly. The air between us was heavy with everything unsaid. He broke the silence first. So he started, keeping his tone light. I took that extra shift on Friday, but I can switch out if you want to do something. Dinner maybe? My fork paused midair. You already signed up for it? I mean, yeah. But if you really wanted me home, you always say that. I cut in, sharper than I meant to. You always say you'll change something, but by the time you ask, the decision's already made. He blinked. Okay, where did that come from? I laughed, but it wasn't funny. It was brittle. It came from 3 months of you asking me what I want after you've already done what you want. His jaw tightened. Claire, you're acting like I'm deliberately ignoring you. I'm not acting, I snapped. I feel ignored. Every damn day. I feel like I'm screaming inside and you just don't hear it. You don't want to hear it. He put his fork down, slow and deliberate. Okay, what is this really about? Because this isn't about Friday. And then, God, I don't know what happened, everything just cracked. I stood up, hands shaking. It's about everything, Jake. It's about how I feel like a ghost in my own relationship. It's about how you come home and kiss me without even looking at me. It's about how you proposed with a ring that felt like an afterthought, and I said the worst thing imaginable because I was so confused and disappointed and angry and empty. He stood too now, stunned. Wait. Are we back to the ring? It's not about the ring, I said, my voice breaking. It's about how that moment, when you got down on one knee, I didn't feel loved. I felt obligated to react a certain way. And all I could think was, this doesn't feel like us anymore. Silence. Jake stared at me, jaw clenched, his eyes glinting with something I couldn't name. I spent weeks planning that moment, he said, voice low. I worked extra shifts to afford that ring. It wasn't the most expensive, but I thought you'd love it because it was simple and real like us. I sank back into the chair, tears rolling freely now. I know, Jake. And I hated myself the second I said what I said. But that night, it just confirmed everything I'd been feeling. That we're drifting. That we're holding on to some version of us that doesn't exist anymore. He didn't speak. He just stood there, fists loosely balled at his sides, then quietly left the table, walked straight into the bedroom and shut the door. I sat alone, the food cold on my plate, my throat raw from crying. And in that awful, aching quiet, guilt seeped in like smoke. Why did I have to ruin it? Why couldn't I have just let him try? Why did I say those words about the ring, when what I really wanted was to feel something, anything real again? But the truth was, I didn't hate the ring. I hated that the proposal made me realize just how far we'd already drifted. And I didn't know how to come back from that. At first, it was filled with small things, perfunctory questions, dry responses, the clinking of dishes as we moved around each other like awkward roommates. I think we both tried, in our own quiet, exhausted ways, to pretend we were fine. But within a few days, even those scraps of communication dried up. Jake started sleeping on the couch. He didn't say he was going to. He just did. One night, I came out of the bathroom and saw the door to the bedroom gently swinging open empty. I walked to the living room and saw him lying there on his side, fully dressed, the glow of his phone lighting up his face. He didn't even look up when I stood in the hallway for a full minute. I missed him. God, I missed him. Even when he was right there, 10 feet away, I missed him like he was already gone. I'd catch myself making coffee in the morning and instinctively reaching for a second mug, then stopping. He'd started leaving earlier for shifts, even when he didn't need to. Some mornings, I woke up to the sound of the front door clicking shut before sunrise. One night, I found his laundry still warm in the dryer. I pulled out a t-shirt, one I'd always stolen to sleep in, and held it close to my chest, trying to breathe in something that felt like us again. But it didn't work. The distance between us wasn't just physical anymore, it had roots. Sometimes I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. Not angry, not cold, just tired. There was a new kind of sadness in his eyes. A resignation. Like he'd stopped hoping I'd come to him first. Like he'd made peace with the space and was waiting for me to fill it or let it stay. That hurt more than anything. He wasn't the villain in this. He had tried. Maybe not in the ways I needed, but in the ways he knew. The night he proposed, he looked so vulnerable, like he genuinely believed that moment would bring us closer. And I had shattered it with a few careless words. I kept replaying that night, trying to understand what I wanted from him that I couldn't name back then. I think I wanted reassurance that he still saw me, that he still loved who I had become, not just the version of me he first fell for. But I never asked. I just recoiled, reacted, punished him for not reading my mind. Now, I walked through our apartment like a stranger. We used to laugh in the kitchen. Now, I cooked with earbuds in just to fill the silence. He used to reach for me in the middle of the night. Now, I lay in bed hugging my own knees. This wasn't just a fight. This was a drift. A quiet unraveling of something once safe. And yet, I still loved him. That hadn't changed. I missed the way he held my hand when I was anxious in public. The way he texted me every time he got back from a difficult shift just to say, "Still breathing." The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. God, I hadn't seen that smile in weeks. That night, as I stood in the doorway watching him sleep on the couch, blanket half draped over his legs, arm curled under his head, I whispered the words I hadn't said in days. I still want you. He didn't hear it. Or maybe he was pretending not to. But I heard myself. And I knew then I had a choice to make. Walk away. Or fight for us before we became too far gone to recognize what we'd had. It was sitting on the kitchen counter when I got home one night. No box. Just the gold band, small and still, reflecting the soft light from the window like it was waiting for something. Or someone. Jake was in the living room, stretched out on the couch again, his eyes closed but not asleep. His chest rose and fell evenly, and for a moment I just stood there, watching him. He looked peaceful, but it was the kind of peace that comes after you stop hoping for something to change. I picked up the ring. My fingers closed around it gently, like I was afraid to hurt it. Or maybe myself. I sat down at the edge of the couch, just near his feet. He didn't move. I saw the ring, I said quietly. A pause. Then, still without opening his eyes, he murmured, "Didn't know what else to do with it." "I thought you took it back." "I did. Then I bought it back." I blinked. "Why?" He finally opened his eyes. Looked at me, not coldly, not even sadly. Just tired. "Because I thought maybe you'd want it again. Someday." The words hung there, fragile. Jake, my throat tightened. I shouldn't have said what I said. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you that I felt like we were slipping away from each other. I lashed out. He sat up slowly, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's not just about the ring, Claire. You know that. It's everything. The way you shut down. The way I try and feel like I'm failing anyway." "I know," I whispered. "I know I've been shutting you out. I've been needing things I didn't know how to ask for." He nodded, eyes cast down. "And I've been trying to fix things with actions instead of words. That's what I know. But maybe that's not what you need. I want to need less. But I don't." I reached out and touched his arm. He didn't flinch, but he didn't lean in either. For a few seconds, we just sat like that, me with my hand on his arm, him staring at a point somewhere behind me. The distance between us wasn't as sharp as before, but it was still there. Still aching. "Do you still love me?" I asked, even though the question felt like a knife in my mouth. He looked up at me then, really looked. "I do," he said. "But I don't know if we're still good for each other." The words hit harder than I expected. Not because they were cruel, but because they were honest. He reached over and gently took the ring from my hand. Turned it in his fingers slowly. "This wasn't supposed to be a test. I wasn't trying to impress you. I just wanted to start a new chapter." And it felt like you slammed the book shut. Tears slipped from my eyes, and I didn't bother to wipe them. I didn't mean to. I think. I just didn't know how to open up anymore. Jake leaned forward and kissed my forehead. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't a promise. It was, "Goodbye." He stood and walked to the bedroom. Grabbed a small duffel bag he'd already packed. My heart sank. I'm going to stay at my brother's for a while, he said quietly. You need space. I do too. I didn't beg. I didn't fall apart. But when the door clicked shut behind him, the weight of what I'd lost pressed down like gravity. Not because I didn't love him, but because sometimes love alone isn't enough. You know, I used to think love was about moments. Grand gestures. The surprise weekend trips, the flowers on anniversaries, the rings in velvet boxes. But now, I think it's actually in the quiet things. The small, inconvenient, everyday choices. The asking. The listening. The staying even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Jake left 3 weeks ago. He took his duffel bag, his toothbrush, and the part of my heart I wasn't brave enough to protect. And he hasn't come back. We've texted. Once. It was polite. Surface level. He said he was fine. I said I was too. We both lied. There's no dramatic ending here. No cheating. No screaming in the rain. Just two people who once held each other like oxygen, slowly forgetting how to breathe the same air. I look back at that night, the proposal, and I don't even recognize the girl who looked at the man she loved and said, "This is cheap. Not simple. Not meaningful. Not you didn't have to. Cheap." I wish I could take it back. Not because I want the ring now, but because I wish I had said what I really meant. I wish I had said, "I'm scared. I'm scared we're pretending. I'm scared we're slipping and neither of us knows how to hold on. I'm scared this moment feels more like a performance than a promise." But I didn't say any of that. I judged the symbol because I didn't know how to talk about the silence. You know, the truth is, he did love me. In his own way. Through touch, through gestures, through fixing problems with his hands. But I needed something else. I needed words. I needed to feel chosen emotionally, not just physically. And I didn't know how to say that without sounding ungrateful. Sometimes I wonder if we had just paused. Had one more honest conversation. Maybe it could have gone differently. But then again, maybe the breakup wasn't a moment either. Maybe it was built, day by day, in every unanswered question. In every kiss that meant, "Let's not talk." In every hug that asked for comfort instead of connection. I've learned something I wish I didn't have to learn this way. Desire without intimacy feels like pressure. And intimacy without vulnerability feels like a performance. I'm not blameless. I shut down. I waited for him to guess what I needed, instead of speaking up. I punished him for not being what I never asked for. But I also know this. A woman shouldn't have to choose between being touched and being understood. I'm learning to be better. Not just for the next man, if there is one, but for me. To speak up before resentment becomes silence. To hold someone's hand and their truth. To ask for what I need, and to hear what they need in return. Do I still love him? Yes. Quietly. Gently. Like a memory I don't want to scrub out, but can no longer carry every day. He gave me something that broke me, but it also woke me. And maybe that's all some people are meant to do in our lives. If he ever hears this, I hope he knows. The ring wasn't cheap. The moment wasn't empty. I just wasn't ready. But now, I am. And if nothing else, that's what I'm walking away with. 3.